Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 6th Annual Parent Network Workshop. We are really excited to be here today, and we are going to be in session Nobody Puts Baby in a Corner, using your voice for system change at local, regional, and state levels. Before we get started, we have just a few housekeeping items. If you have questions during the session, please use the Q&A feature that is located in the Zoom menu bar at the bottom. And in the coming days, we will be posting this recording of this session along with the slides and links that are important on our website at idahoparentnetwork.org. Please check back and feel free to share those slides and that information with anyone that you think would benefit from it. So without that out of the way, I want to go ahead and introduce to you today's presenters. We have Marco Erickson, who is the Program Director at Community Youth in Action. He is also a representative at the Idaho House of Representatives in District 33B. We have Pat Martell, who is the Program Development Coordinator at the Idaho Federation of Families for Children's Mental Health. We have Amy Marie, who is a parent and the Secretary at the Idaho Parent Network for Children's Mental Health. And Terry Ann Ness-Parker, who is, well, many things, but in this case, she's also a member of the Region 7 Behavioral Health Board and the chair of the Region 7 Children's Mental Health Subcommittee. So today, we are going to go over a few things. We're going to talk about understanding the value parents bring when they get involved. And we're going to identify ways to get involved at the local, regional, and state level. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, just a second. Laura, how do I get the slide to change? There we go. All right, so why should parents be involved and what do we bring to the table? I believe that parents bring a unique perspective and we are our own expertise in how our families are and what our children need. We can share what works and what doesn't work as consumers. We have lived experience that offers valuable feedback. When we get involved, we have the chance to improve the system, if not just for our families, but for others. Change can only happen when we speak up and problem solve collaboratively. I really like this quote by Jane Hull, governor of Arizona. Let's see. At the end of the day, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is the positive involvement of parents. I think that's really hopeful and encouraging, especially when we feel like we're not making a difference when our kiddos are struggling so much. Parents change system. Parents' voice is key to system change at the local, regional, and state levels. Having perspective from those that use the systems have helped help those in charge design something that works. And it isn't as hard as you may think that it is. So I've been asked to share how I got involved with system change and mental health advocacy work. There is a lot to go over, so I'll just kind of give you the highlights. 5 years ago, our family moved from North Idaho to Eastern Idaho. We didn't have any family or friends here, and we didn't have a supportive church community. We had 7 children still living at home under the age of 13, all with mental health challenges, and some of them with developmental delays and medical concerns. So I started this journey into the system and into system change and volunteer mental health advocacy work and efforts to save my family and my own sanity. For convenience sake, when I talk about system or systems, I'm referring to mental health, the DD world, child welfare, special education, and the juvenile justice system. Because oftentimes when you are raising children with special needs, your child touches multiple systems at one point or another. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and beaten down. I was hopeless, alone, and felt isolated. I was angry with the system and my community, and most painfully, God. I went to my first IPOL workshop, which is Idaho Parents Unlimited, for special needs parents. And I met a neighbor there and we started talking. She heard what we were going through and she offered to watch my youngest daughter so I could go to the appointments that I needed with my children. She introduced me to a local Facebook group for special needs parents, which has since then become statewide, and we have over 1,000 members. I was then introduced to, I call her the one and only Laura Wallace, and my life has never been the same. In efforts to get my children the help they needed, I had to share our story with Laura. The Idaho Parent Network was in its infancy, and there were a handful of key parents at that time who had been working with stakeholders in the Jeff D. lawsuit that brought about what we now know as Youth Empowerment Services, or the YES system of care. Parents' voice played a vital role in shaping the system and services we now have today in Idaho. The first thing that Laura did was attentively listen without judgment and hold space for me. She empathized with their situation and offered support and understanding from her own lived experience. She was able to point me to resources I was not aware of and how to get the help I needed. She informed me of my rights, due process, and how to appeal decisions. She gave me the words and tools to use to push and fight back when the system did not follow proper policies, procedures, and protocols. Nowadays, I look at that process as working together collaboratively and cooperatively, but back then it was an absolute and exhaustive uphill battle. Laura gained my trust by leading me through the jungle and equipping me with the knowledge I needed for us to survive as a family. She asked permission to share parts of my family's story at the local, regional, and state level during meetings, and the people there would problem solve the potholes in the current system and drive positive system change in the future. I gave verbal and written statements in the beginning. She would then tell me what solutions they came up with to help us and how the system moving forward would be different for other families like ours because we spoke up. I learned we were not alone. And by sharing our story and using parent voice to advocate, we can make a difference because together our voices are strong. There are many ways I was given opportunities to get involved. At first, I was completely overwhelmed and I felt like I was drowning. So allowing others to share my story was all I was able to do at first. And then one by one, piece by piece, as my bandwidth fluctuated, as time allowed, and as my children became more stable, one day at a time, I got involved locally, regionally, statewide, and nationally. Some of these things have been put on hold, or I have had to step away due to time constraints and life stressors. But the first thing that I did was join Region 7's Children's Mental Health Subcommittee that Terry Ann will speak to us shortly about. By the way, I feel that Region 7 rocks at collaboration and coming up with workable solutions. We welcome parent feedback and we move the system forward. We pilot successful programs and we have created resources for parents, and I have enjoyed my time there. I took on assignments to help with community events and public speaking to bring about mental health awareness to local schools and providers. I have taken surveys about system involvement that gets reported back to the state. I've reviewed documents for parents' understanding for printed and website materials. I joined work groups, and there is a lot to choose from, and Pat will be talking to us about that later. I've helped create and distribute surveys for parents and flyers to the community. I've used social media as a platform for mental health awareness and support. I attend collaborative meetings to help child welfare to interact with special needs families more appropriately and effectively. I was asked to join the Citizens Review panel in our region to review open CPS cases to offer feedback to the Legislative Oversight Committee on System Change to Child Welfare. I was a board member for Community Suicide Prevention for 2.5 years to bring awareness, prevention training, and resources to our community members who have lost a loved one to suicide. I got involved with Community Youth in Action, a local youth coalition we're going to hear about from my friend Marco, that focuses on mental health for teens, drug and alcohol prevention, suicide prevention, giving youth endless leadership and service opportunities. I have stepped completely out of my comfort zone and have done interviews with Optum for training purposes, spoken in Federation podcasts, presented in Parent Network workshop sessions like this one, and last week presented with my fellow Parent Network board members in the International TCOM conference. I do it because it saved my family. I do it because it gives me strength and support. It gives me a way to connect. It gives me the tools and resources I need as a parent to get the support and services my children need to thrive. It gives me an opportunity to help others. It gives me a hope for a better future. And it is the silver lining to our story. I can now say, because of these collaborative efforts and opportunities to get involved, I am strong and resilient. I'm resourceful. I'm wise. I'm hopeful. And I'm still tired because I still have 8 children. Okay, so let's talk about getting involved on the local level and what families need to know. This next quote is by Sandra Day O'Connor. Parents should continue to become more involved in their communities. And I know for me, in my experience and what I shared with you, it has made all the difference in the world. So let's turn the time over to my friend and colleague, Marco Erickson.
Hey, thank you, Amy. That is an amazing story. I love the empowerment that you got from being a part of so many great things, and hearing that story just touches my heart right here. You guys, I'd like to let you know where I started in this work. And I love the title of this workshop because it says nobody puts baby in a corner and using their voice to create the change that's needed. When I was first started in this, I was a little baby, I would say. My family was one of those families that people would have written off and said, this kid is going nowhere and has nothing in his future because of the family circumstances that I was in. 8 years old, I lost my father to drunk driving. And I became passionate about something called drug prevention, and mental health, and realizing how important it was to just get involved. And I started off with these little school clubs. And so getting involved in your community starts whenever you find your passion for it. And I would go to parades and I would go to these team leadership things. And by the time I was in high school, I was engaged in community events and all sorts of community events, including one time I got a silly award. All I did was show up to help this guy save his house from a flood, right? So getting involved can mean anything, and it starts on different levels. And one of the things that I got trained on when I was little was how, as a teen, is how to interact with my peers and watch for some stuff and lead groups. And the first time I experienced some massive endorphins from the service I gave was when a young lady, I just noticed she needed a hug. I gave her a hug one day, and I didn't even know anything other than that. And I walked away, and the next day she came up to me and she thanked me. And she said, I was going to die by suicide that day, and you gave me a hug and just gave me hope. And from that point on, I was able to interact with that young lady and make a difference in her life. And I realized that me, this little guy who everybody wrote off, I can make a difference and I could be something. So I started getting involved. And as I grew up, I went to college and learned some stuff. And then every time I would move, I would go to a new community, just kind of like Amy was mentioning, and you'd have to get involved. And I got this thing that happened to me a few years ago, and I moved to a new community out of the state of Idaho for a short period of time. And I just started getting involved in everything right away, like I normally like to do. And my boss was new to the state as well when I had moved, and she could not believe how I was getting invited to all these things. And they were mentioning my name. She's like, you're brand new here. How does everyone know you? And my simple answer to her was, I get involved. At night, when I go home, I don't sit on my couch and watch television after work. I'm engaged in my community. I'm a volunteer. I'm doing something with purpose, something that matters. And people recognize your heart, and they know that your heart, when it's genuine, that you care, and then they invite you to things. I was sitting at meetings with dignitaries and governors and things I had never been invited to, and doors opened up for me, on my career path that wouldn't have otherwise opened from my volunteer service. And it led to some great things in my personal life. And so just so you know, when you get involved, it could be the smallest little thing, and it leads to great things depending on how much passion and energy you have for what you're getting involved in. And here in Idaho, I happen to be blessed I get to work at an organization that involves creating community change and being a part of bringing community together. And we have these things called the 12 sectors. And that parents are a part of that 12 sectors. Youth are a part of that. Religious leaders, civic and volunteer organizations in the community, people who provide drug and alcohol and mental health services are involved in that. City council and government leaders, and media, right? So we get all these different schools are involved. Everybody who affects the lives of young people get involved, and we find ways that we can build a better community. And we always need new people. There's so many ways to get engaged. And so let's make sure that we always remember to get engaged and work together the best we can to make a difference. And I have the tip I have for you to get involved is just have passion. Start with passion and ask around where you can serve. If you want to call me in this area, you're welcome to find a way, and we'll get you a way to serve. We love to just engage people where they want to be. And then, like Amy, you'll end up being on multiple committees because people will start saying, oh, you like to serve here, and they'll ask you to serve elsewhere, and you'll get engaged in boards. I was just kind of doing a simple little thing of how many boards and events I'm on right now in my region. I've only been back to Idaho Falls for 2.5 years, or close to 3 years. But I help run church programs and learn and working with youth. And like Amy, community suicide prevention. I'm always engaged in as many local service projects as I can. It's a lot of fun. You get endorphins and you get great feelings from serving your community. The food bank, we're involved in that in lots of ways. Various mental health committees, and Terry Ann will talk some more about that. Lego League, it's funny. I coach these local Lego leagues because there's STEM programs for kids, and it really brings some great skills out of them that help them get involved in the community as well. And you wouldn't think Legos would do that, but Legos are the draw, but really what gets them engaged is all these other things, core values and community involvement projects. Idaho Drug Free Youth is a statewide program I get to be a part of. And so all these little things, it's just a part of being a part of your community. You decide what you're passionate about and where you want to do. And once it's simple, ask somebody, they'll guide you to the right person to get you involved on the level that you want. And you can set the boundaries however you want. You can be minimally involved, or you can be heavily involved on any level. I tended to get asked to be heavily involved in these projects, and I just love it. And if you knew my personal life, I work all day serving people. I don't go home and watch television and do a whole, but I also have time for me, and that's important. I think it's important to remember, keep your personal boundaries and enjoy things that you enjoy. And I find so much joy in the service of these projects that it doesn't feel like work to me, because every time I get to see that one child's life change in such a small level, it makes a difference for me too. And I feel the joy from it.
Marco, can you talk about how you've involved your family? So it's not just you. I mean, your kids are involved, and how it can be a family.
Yes, that's a great thing. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, because I'm so engaged in all, and my wife as well. I balance it by bringing them along with me, and then it becomes their passion too. All of them, even the little ones. And spending tons of time. And it happens to be at Community Youth in Action. My children have been so engaged and involved that they've ended up on leadership teams. They've gotten to travel with me to different conferences and speak at national events. And I cried my eyes out the last time I spoke. And I had my entire family at this national event, and 3 of my children were on stage with me for the first time. And that just brings so much joy to your heart. And how do they get there? At young ages, they were young teenagers, not like older. And it's because they found that same passion. It's hard to not have endorphins when you're serving your community, and great blessings come. Sometimes you end up getting to get sent, somebody has money and they send you to events to represent them. And what a gift it was. Our community, our Region 7 Behavioral Health Board, we got invited to speak at this National Mental Health Conference, and they sent us, and we were so grateful for that to represent our area. So thanks for that question, Amy.
You're welcome. Well, and it also helps us feel better when we have other things to focus on, and when our family situations are so hard, and it teaches our kids to serve and get outside themselves.
Yes, very true. And the greatest gift is getting to hang out with your kids and do something you love at the same time. I mean, it's so joyful.
That's
so
wonderful.
that allows me to be a good dad as well, because last month, it's strange to hear this, but one of my son's friends said to him, I wish we could trade dads. And I felt heartbroken for that boy and joyful for my son at the same time. And it's just, that's the kind of honor that we take in and accept. But boy, that tells us we have a lot of work to do still. And when it comes to systems, systems, we create them, right? Our people created them. And I want to empower you to know that because we created them, we can also change them.
Thank you so much, Marco. I really appreciated our interactions over the last couple of years. And if you are looking to get involved, he is definitely someone to talk to. All right. So now we're going to talk about regional involvement and what families need to know about that. Terry Ann, as we said previously, is our Region 7 Children's Mental Health Subcommittee Chair. And she has a lot of experience in multiple systems. So take it, before I have Terry Ann speak, we'll just look at this from Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And I know Terry Ann is really good at teaching us how to do it and empower us as parents. So go ahead, Terry Ann.
Okay, I really like that quote, Amy. Thank you. Getting involved, that's pretty much what I have done. I became an adoptive parent of 2 children with severe emotional disturbance years ago. And I didn't want to accept the answer of just put them in 3B detention center or put them in a mental health hospital. I wanted to figure out how to help both these children. There was 7 years difference between their adoptions. So what did I do? I kept knocking on doors and I kept asking questions and I kept asking, nope, that's not going to work. What else is there? If that doesn't work, what's next? Who else do I talk to? That's how I became involved with the Behavioral Health Board. I kept asking questions and at one point I was told that there was this group of people that got together that talked about mental health stuff, and would I be interested in meeting with them? And I, of course, said, yeah. What's it all about, and how can I learn, or what is there to learn, or who is it? And I started learning about networking. I feel that networking is like one of the opportunities to empower us as families, us as people, for our community, for our children, for our families. The Behavioral Health Board was developed in 2013 by the governor. And what he said was, we're going to take this group of mental health people that are getting together with the state and combine them with the Regional Addictions Council, which was happening every 3 to 4 months across the state in every region. And we're going to blend those. And the governor established in the state of Idaho that we have what's called our behavioral health boards. Every region, all 7 regions, have one of these. It is mandated by the governor. On that, there are 21 seats, 21 different seats. It includes law enforcement, Department of Health and Welfare, people that struggle with addictions and families that have people struggling with addictions, people that struggle with mental health concerns, families that struggle with them, providers, mental health providers, addiction providers, judicial, medical, lots of different wonderful people all coming to the table at the very same time, given their perspective from a whole nother view. I was invited to the table. I'm an elected member of the Behavioral Health Board. I hold the seat that is a parent of a child with severe emotional disturbance. In that opportunity, that opened the door for me to get involved in what was going on statewide and what was going on regional wide. And part of what the governor mandated in 2013 was also that each behavioral health board would have a children's mental health subcommittee. what is that's a group of people that want to understand from a regional level just what's going on in your region, what's working, what's not working, what could be needed, what we do well. And I was honored to be able to be elected as that subcommittee chairperson from the board. So since 2013, 2014, I am reading the message that I just got sent. Turn on my video. Okay. I was becoming more and more involved in asking questions for my own kids and trying to find out what's next for education, what's next for medical, what's next for mental health, what's next for community activities. How can I help my kids? One diagnosed with attachment, major attachment struggles, the other one diagnosed with schizophrenia at age 11. How can this life that we live be to the best of their abilities, and what doors do I need to open up for them? And so those were the people that I was inviting to the Children's Mental Health Committee, was those people that I connected with. And I kept opening up opportunities for other people like the same, different children's mental health providers, judicial system, probation, medical providers, Head Start.
Terry Ann, I think you may need to turn off your video so we can just hear your audio.
Social groups such as Community Youth in Action. Okay, how's that?
That's better. Go ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
So I just kept asking different people that I met up with to come join the committee so that we could all understand kind of what's happening. I also invited different parents that I crossed paths with to come and be part of the Children's Mental Health Committee. And slowly the committee continued to grow and grow and grow to the point where we are able to be involved in different trainings for families and providers. We always have a time on the agenda where we talk about our gaps and needs that are happening within our region. And so I invite different people to the table to talk about what's going on in other regions and across the state, and get people involved so that we can make a difference here in Region 7 to hopefully make a difference across the state.
Terry Ann, I really appreciate all that you have done. And I can tell you that I consider our Children's Mental Health Subcommittee one of my most productive and valuable meetings that I attend. We get stuff done. And everyone on this panel I met originally at that meeting, and a lot of the presenters this week I've met through that meeting, and it has been a fantastic way to network and to problem solve for my own family and then help other people. Can you talk a little bit about if a parent was interested in getting involved, who do they contact? Who runs the regional boards?
The best way to get involved is to connect up with your region's public health department. Across the state, every behavioral health board is connected with the public health department in your area. And on their website, they should have an area that states behavioral health board. And then you would click on that tab. On there, you'll find the minutes, their agendas, and then just connect up with the chairperson of the Behavioral Health Board or the Children's Mental Health Subcommittee chairperson. They're all listed. There's also a roster for every behavioral health board. And start making calls, start asking questions. Every region, according to what the governor has said, every region has to have a behavioral health board and a Children's Mental Health Subcommittee. Go ahead, Amy.
And I was going to say that it's a public meeting. So before COVID, we would all meet together, and now a lot of the meetings are virtual, but they are open to the public, and you can participate however you want. And at the end of the meeting, there's a place for public comment. There's a wealth of knowledge in those meetings, and we have children's mental health subcommittees throughout the state that are still looking for parent voice. So if you are interested, you are welcome to contact the Idaho Parent Network or the Idaho Federation of Families so you can learn how to get involved. And we won't let you do it alone. We will walk beside you until you feel confident and comfortable to attend those meetings on your own. Is there anything else that anyone would like to say about that? All right. Thank you, Terry Ann. Thank you so much. Now, we're going to talk about how to get involved at a state level and what families need to know. Gandhi has said, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. I'm happy that Pat Martell from the Idaho Federation of Families is here to join us. And she is going to tell you all the things you need to know on how to get involved at the state level. There are many opportunities, and don't worry, you don't have to write this down vigorously, but we will have resources and notes up on our website after our workshop, so you can reach out and get involved. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you, Amy. I do want to mention that I may not include every possibility of how a person can get involved at the state level, but I'll identify several. I'm also watching my own time, so because I know we're in a time situation, but I think we're ahead of schedule.
We are.
So as a background, I would like everyone to know that I worked for Idaho Medicaid for approximately 13 years. And then I worked for the Division of Behavioral Health working on the Jeff D. lawsuit. And I did that for approximately 3 years. So my experience, besides being a licensed clinical social worker, is that I am steeped in experience of working in the state. So if you'd like to ask me any questions along those lines, I'll try to be as helpful as I can. It's important to understand, if you're interested in doing some advocacy work, that the state actually has created a structure across the major child serving systems for the community. And when I say the community, I mean parents and caretakers, young adults and youth, even providers. There is a structure for that. So the main child serving systems that we mainly deal with in terms of us helping children and their families that have serious emotional disturbance is the State Department of Education, the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections, and the Department of Health and Welfare, specifically the Division of Behavioral Health and Medicaid, and also Family and Community Services. The Department of Special Education operates a special education advisory panel known as SEAP, S-E-A-P, that parents sit on, and they use that as a mechanism to get parent input into the processes and policies the State Department of Education is working on. That is open for citizens to apply to and to participate in. Also, the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections operates a juvenile justice state advisory board. And in fact, they operate a series of boards that the community can participate in. There is the Juvenile Justice Commission, the Juvenile Training Council, the Custody Review Board, the Interstate Juvenile Supervision, the Juvenile Offender System Advisory Board. All of these things exist so that there can be input and oversight from the community, including parents. The Department of Health and Welfare, in particular, the Division of Behavioral Health, many of you are probably familiar that they operating a project to reform the children's mental health system. And through that process, they have partnered with the Idaho Federation of Families for the Federation to identify parents and youth who can participate in the state's reform efforts so that parent voice can be at the table and youth voice can be at the table. So I want to invite everyone that the simplest way, if you would like to get involved in any of this, is to contact the agency I work for. We recently put up a new website and email. The website is www.fyidaho.org. And that stands for Family and Youth of Idaho. If you will go to that website, you will see many opportunities for you to not only communicate directly with us about your desire to be involved in any of that, but also direct links to opportunities for you to get involved. I have a couple of things to offer in terms of helping you understand perhaps some readiness, so you will be ready when an opportunity presents, or if you want to assertively find an opportunity connecting with these various things I have mentioned. It's always a good idea to identify your local legislators and your local commissioners. Those are the folks who have their hands directly and indirectly on the purse strings. And the money, the flow of money and the use of money is one of the major aspects of the tensions and development that goes on between the community and state government. So that is the element of, if you want to get involved, then perhaps you want to understand who your representatives are and who are your county commissioners. And along those lines, then what you want to also do is understand how to develop a targeted message. So whenever you cross paths with a person in power, you might be able to offer up 2 to 3 sentences. Hi, I'm Pat Martell. I work with families whose children need intensive residential care and they have to send their children out of Idaho to get that care. Could we talk about that a few minutes?
Like your elevator speech, right, Pat?
Exactly. That was my next item, was you can have an elevator speech ready. Those of you who don't know what that is, just Google elevator speech. There's lots of ways to do it, but it's like those main points where you're going to put a hook into whoever it is you're talking to, so that you can then have an extended conversation and that can lead to somewhere. Now, in particular, there are some yes work groups. I have a list here that I want to look up. There are 6 work groups that the state is offering that is required by the lawsuit that they are working in. Those are the interagency governance team, the 2 subcommittees of that team, which is family engagement, which I encourage every single person who's listening to me to join. We also have the clinical and training subcommittee. Then additionally, there is what's known as the QMIA. That's basically the quality management improvement. And what is it? What does the A stand for? Assurance?
I believe so.
So, and then under that committee, there are some subcommittees that work specifically with gathering family stories, and another subcommittee that works very specifically on addressing system change when a problem is revealed that has a real distinct sort of solution that needs to happen immediately. Those are required. There are a number of work groups that are needed, that have existed historically, that people from the community have asked the department to breathe life back into. And that is where some real opportunity exists for anybody who would like to participate in such work. That can be some really exciting work. We're trying to encourage and support the state to again sponsor work groups that address workforce development. We're having a workforce crisis. We were having the crisis before COVID, but now the crisis is catastrophic. Access to care for children has dropped dramatically. And so that's one of the bigger issues. We used to have a work group that addressed the CANs and the CANs issues. We used to have a case management work group. We used to have, and still have, a due process work group. There's a number of work groups that, as I was mentioning, we've got the required ones, and we have those that are more or less come into existence as the state deems they are necessary. And so the Idaho Federation is working very closely with the state to get these work groups up and running. And then we also work with the communities to find parents who would like to sit on those work groups. And then out of that, we work with those parents. We orient them to what the whole process is and what their role could possibly be. And then we involve them directly in attending those meetings. Now, I want to go back to something that you heard earlier in this panel, and that is you can become as involved as you want, as little as you want. You can be a face in a meeting. All the meetings are open to the public, except for one meeting, which is the lawyers between the parties of the lawsuit. But everything else is open to the public. If you don't want to speak, you can just go to the meeting and listen to it. If you'd like to speak, a lot of times these meetings have a time on the agenda for the public to make a comment or ask a question. If you would like to contact the Federation of Families and talk more about any of these opportunities, that's what we're here for. And so we would love to talk to you and engage your level of interest. Maybe from silence all the way to perhaps writing a letter, starting a petition, any number of ways you can get involved, and we'll support you.
And I can tell you that working with the Federation has been wonderful because you can start off little. And like I said, I started off giving my information to other people to speak because I was way too intimidated. I didn't think that people would value my voice. I didn't think that I held any, I don't know what the word is, but I didn't think that I would hold any weight. And these meetings are great, and you won't be alone. There's every meeting that I've attended to has somebody from either the Idaho Parent Network or the Federation. And it's been wonderful, and it's opened up a lot of doors. And I'm so grateful that the Federation does trainings. If you don't know how to write your story or write a statement, they teach you how to do that. They can help you with the elevator speech. They help you through the whole process and connect you to other parents. I love that they have the coffee chats. Did you want to speak a little bit about that, Pat, before we move on?
Sure, Amy. One way that we do try to do some outreach is the Federation sponsors several support groups. And Amy just mentioned we have a coffee chat once a month. Anyone can attend, and you can talk about anything that's on your mind. We use that coffee chat as a way for us to keep our finger on the pulse of what families are going through and what families want to talk about, or what any stakeholder needs to talk about in terms of services for children with serious emotional disturbance and the system that we're living in. But we also have a support group for adoptive parents and parents who are facing the transition of their child back into the home from a hospital or a residential stay. And we have resources to offer additional support groups. And part of the thing that we do out of the coffee chat is by talking to a variety of parents just about the things they want to talk about. we learn what parents need and want. And so we try to develop programs based on that. And I have exceeded my time, I realize. So thank you very much. And I'm going to put the website and my email in the chat for anybody who would like it.
Thank you, Pat. We really appreciate it. And I do love those coffee chats and support groups. It's a great way to meet other parents so you don't feel alone, and then gives you the strength that you need to move forward. All right, we are going to go to legislative involvement, and this will take us back to Marco. Amelia Earhart, she's one of my heroes. She said, decide whether or not the goal is worth the risk involved. If it is, stop worrying. I know that there was times where I was afraid to get involved, and all I had to do is be reminded that it was worth it if it made positive changes for not only my family, but for others. So Marco, can you talk with us about legislative involvement?
Sure can. Real quick, I want to go back to state government involvement just a second, because when I was running a state government operation, I was in charge of rather $50 million, and I had just taken over this position. And there was this man who would come, and he was a citizen, an everyday average citizen. He would come to these meetings, and he would be like what we call a lot of people would call a thorn in your side. But when I took over this agency, it was not a thorn in my side. My staff would come to me and they'd say, oh, you're going to hate this guy. Well, this guy came up and he started speaking, and he would hold the state accountable. And what he was doing was all this amazing research as a citizen and telling the state what they should be doing. And I came in there and I told the staff, I said, wait a minute, he's right. So why are you guys complaining about this man? And I welcomed his input and I loved it. And I told the staff two things. I said, one, we have to involve our families and community consumers because they're the people who matter on the ground. And number two, your job does not exist without them. So that was the attitude and approach I took when I was running a state government office. I hope more would do that as well, because parents and consumers matter. You really do, and you drive the systems and the system change. So now let's talk about legislative and how to get involved in that. I was driven to become a legislator for that reason. I felt that I had learned enough in my various roles over my lifetime that it was time for me to make that jump to be the person that can make a difference on a policy level that can help serve you guys on the ground in the public.
And we're so glad you did, Marco.
Thank you. And I'm quickly becoming known as the go-to person for a lot of children's issues and mental health issues because that's my specialty. And what I want you to understand is you have to find the legislator that really fits the issue you're trying to solve. Because I had some people come to me with and I'm not picking on them for this, but they came to me with this amazing issue that affected military veterans. And I was like, gosh, I want to help you on this, but I don't know how. It's not my specialty. It's not my passion. I love the issue, but I'm not the best person for the job. So what I did is I watched other legislators and learned who quickly was passionate about what issues. And then I referred them to that individual. And then they got their needs met through that person. And it was so cool to watch because those of us, it's important to know what your issue is and find a legislator who is passionate about the same issue as you. Because then when you do what Pat was mentioning and you have that elevator speech, they're going to be ready to listen to you and say, hey, let's set an appointment. Don't be offended if that appointment takes a couple of weeks to set up or even a month, because we get quite busy and our schedules get bogged down really fast. A lot of people want our time. But when the citizens, ask for our time over another organization, we usually want to talk to you first. So just know that, because citizens matter and everything you say and do matters. You're the voters. Your voice matters, especially to someone who's highly passionate. So I want to talk about the process. The first thing you need to do is come with an idea and a solution, because when you come to us with a potential proposal, it's a lot easier to move it forward. When you start off, if you're just ranting and you don't know what to do, that doesn't help as much as we get empathy for you, but we're not ready to move forward. And we want to get you to a phase where we can move forward. And in order to do that, you have to have an idea and a proposed solution. Maybe look at the statute, do some research, and even have a proposed bill idea. And then we'll look at it together and we'll go through the process. And usually the process is just starting with finding a sponsor. That's the number one thing. If you have a bill or something you really want to change, you have to find somebody in the legislature who's willing to sponsor you. And we'll take that issue forward. And once they do that, they'll do the legwork of moving that language and having the conversations back and forth with you of the progress where it's at, getting it to the proper people to make it look all fancy. Because it's funny how I'll take my simple words and then somebody makes them look magically fancy. These lawyers who know how to write them in legal jargon, that's what they do. And they're specialists at that. And I just send it forward to them and then they give it back to me. And then there's all these internal processes and ways it takes. There's this, it calls an RS, and then you introduce it into a committee. And then from the committee, you get a committee hearing, and that's when the public gets to come in and you guys can come and support a bill that you've helped propose. And you get to bring your voices in. Last year, we had a lot of that taking place. I was able to have several people, even on this group, who came in and testified on a specific bill that made a big difference in the state. That's how it works. And then the bill will go from there. If it passes the hearing, it will go to the House for a reading. It get on the reading calendar, and it could take several days. But once it gets through, the House will vote, or if it starts on the Senate side, they'll do it the opposite way. And then once it's passed ours, we have to go through that hearing process again on the Senate side, depending on what committee it is on. And we have to have a Senate sponsor. Usually we're planning the Senate sponsor while we're working on the bill at the beginning. So we have two of us who are engaged. And then that person will carry it on the Senate floor. And it takes longer on the Senate side. It's a waiting game. I know for the bill that was being worked on last year that was associated with this group, it was a lot of work and it took a lot of waiting on the Senate side, mainly because they have to conduct their own business first, then they get to the House business. And so as it progresses, it sometimes can be on a calendar for quite a while, but you got to be watching that and pay attention to the legislative websites and engage in that manner. In order to get it, to see what's going on and watch them. And all those are public. You can watch all the committee hearings, you can watch all the House, and each one of us as we give our speeches on the floor, you can hear everything about the bill you're interested in tracking. And your little concept that you think is small can become a reality. You just have to do your work and have that communication open with us. And I guess I want to emphasize that your voice matters. We listen to you. And so you can influence laws. I've seen it done myself. I've helped carry a couple that were parent voice. And so I just decided at this point, is there any questions for me on my end? I could talk a lot all day on these topics, but it's nice to have questions.
Yeah, it has been quite the year, Marco, watching you bring matters that we care about as parents and to see it pass unanimously. And it's been super exciting. You know, you never realize how much you can make a difference. But it looks like we don't have any specific questions in regards to that.
Just know you can always call me, and yes. I'm open to hearing what you have to say. I really care about children's mental health issues and juvenile justice issues, things that affect our future. And so I'm one of those policy advocates for change wherever it's needed. When we see problems, we want to have the conversations, and I'll guide you as to where we need to go with it. We can't always make a giant splash, but we do a lot of research, and we get the people involved, and we engage our partners, and slowly we're able to make those changes happen one little piece at a time. That's great. Marco, can you put your contact information in the chat for everyone? I sure will. We want to get a hold of you for that. Yes, I will. Thank you. Well, we want to thank all of you for joining us today in our session about getting involved. I hope we have sparked some interest. Hopefully you have found ways that you may want to get involved and make a difference. Remember that the most important thing is to take care of yourself and to take care of your family, and to make sure that you have a well-balanced
that you're well balanced and that you don't overdo it. And I know that I've had to learn how to pull back when necessary. And that can be a challenge. And because when you're passionate about so many things and you want to help everyone, it can be hard to recognize when it's time to let somebody else take over. So thank you so much.
Amy, I'm jumping in because I want to say a couple things here at the end. And that is that when Amy first started this journey, she was very unsure if her voice mattered. And I have watched her over the years go from being very unsure to being very confident with what she has to say and the value it brings to the overall system. And I will say that in my years of helping families and being part of this process, what I have found over and over again is that when families start using their voice locally, regionally, or at the state level, they start changing in how they see their experience. They stop feeling alone, but they also start seeing how it is able to change the bigger system. And often we cannot change the system in time to fix it for our own kids. Sometimes we can, sometimes it's very effective, but not always. And sometimes our experiences, the only benefit it feels like we walk away with is the ability to change the system for the family behind us. And I know personally that every service, every support, every system that I had that helped my family came from someone else giving input and fighting for it. And so I look at it as a way for me to pay it forward to the families that maybe will never have to experience what I did because I helped fix the system and change it before they even got there. So I know that I've watched Amy do that. And, Terry Ann has been on that journey with us for a long time, as has Pat and as has Marco. We, as a group, have found that our voice really does have changes. The bill that Marco was alluding to was House Bill 233 last year, and it is a game changer for families who have kids who need psychiatric care and that is out of the home and how the system responds to them. It was a collaborative effort that started with little voices a long time ago, finally getting together and organizing and getting to the right people and getting involved at the right levels. And as Amy said, it passed unanimously. We were surprised. Marco was confident. We were surprised. And
we've been let down before, Laura.
We have been let down.
That was a big win. It really was.
It was huge.
It was huge. So I just want to say thank you to all of the people who have been on this panel and all of the people who are involved across our state. There's no way we could fit everybody who's involved in one panel. I think Zoom would melt down because we really have a robust system in Idaho. And people might be surprised to know that Idaho is actually on the forefront of parent involvement when you look at all of the states in our nation.
It is. So other states are reaching out to us to find out how we're doing it. So we must be doing something right.
Right. And every one of us has a part in that. So I just wanted to say, make sure I put a plug in for the fact that it's okay to start small. It's okay to dip your toe in. It's okay that you don't think your voice is the most overwhelming voice in the room. And it's okay to give your story to someone else to tell if you're not ready to tell it yourself. I've done that myself. I know Amy said that she gave me her story. I gave my story to others when I first started. And, watching the Federation help train families, watching our community, and our regional health boards bring us to the table as equal partners, watching our, local agencies let us step in our door, step our foot in the door and get involved. And then at the state legislative level, listen to what we're saying. It's really encouraging. And I'm excited to be a part of it. So I know I'm not really here for this panel, but I just really wanted to say how much I value the people sitting at the table here today and how much I value the overall system we are blessed to be a part of.
Laura, don't forget, it's also okay to keep asking questions until you find out exactly what it is that's going to make a change and make things better to help those in your family. Keep asking questions.
Right. And if the person you're talking to can't give you the answer, ask them who can.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So Amy, I'll let you wrap it up, but I just wanted to pop in and tell you, I'll make sure everyone knew that Amy's actually a rock star. She's been doing this a long time, and the amount of personal growth we have seen from her, I would say that you have moved mountains, my friend.
Definitely not on my own, but thank you so much. I got to tell you, it's interesting to, when we talk about having someone else share our story first, and Laura did that a lot, and so did other people here in this panel. And as the years have gone by, and now I actually sit in meetings with these people, and they find out that that was part of my story, because there's lots of parts. It's interesting to see what the reaction is. So it's definitely a process, and I am grateful that I have all of you to walk this journey with me. So thank you so much for joining us in our first session with our 6th annual Parent Network Workshop. See you later.